By the 9th morning of rain, every strawberry bed on the Ellis farm looked like it had been lowered into a bowl of gray water. The neighbors had already emptied 2 shelves of Slug pellets, the spray crews were booked 3 farms deep, and Mara Ellis was standing behind the old packing shed, one hand on a wire gate, about to release 76 ducks into the mud. People had laughed at the idea in February, they stopped laughing when the rain did not stop. The Ellis farm sat on 38 acres outside Mount Vernon, Washington, where the soil was dark, flat, and rich enough to grow berries that tasted like June even when spring tried to drown them first. The family grew strawberries. Not wine grapes, not orchard fruit. Strawberries. Low plants, soft leaves, crowns close to the ground, berries forming just where every wet creature in the field could reach them. That is the part tourists never see when they buy a red basket at a roadside stand. They picture sunshine, they picture clean rows, they picture a smiling farmer handing over fruit in a paper carton. They do not picture a woman at 5:12 in the morning, kneeling in cold mud with a headlamp strapped over her cap, turning over a chewed leaf and finding silver slime on the underside. But that was the spring Mara came home and realized the farm was not losing a battle in one dramatic moment. It was losing it one mouthful at a time. The slugs came first in the low beds near the ditch. Then they moved into the center rows. They chewed the youngest leaves before the plants could build strength. They found the early blossoms. They left little ragged half-moons on green berries that should have been untouched for weeks. By Tuesday, a berry farm, west of town, had called in extra help. By Wednesday, a grower near the river was telling people he had never seen pressure this early. By Thursday morning, the co-op clerk had a handwritten sign taped above the empty shelf where the slug bait was supposed to be. Out until next shipment. Mara read that sign. Then she drove home. She did not call the spray crew. She did not ask her father to pull the old tractor out of the machine shed. She walked to the small pen behind the packing room, shook a dented blue feed scoop, and opened the gate. 76 ducks poured into the rain like they had been waiting for this exact weather their entire lives. Let me tell you about Mara Ellis, because this was not a woman trying to make farming cute. Mara was 29 years old. She had grown up between berry rows, irrigation lines, plastic mulch, broken picking flats and the smell of wet cardboard in harvest season. Her father, Ray Ellis, was 66. Ray had hands that looked permanently stained by soil and diesel. He had spent 40 years keeping the farm alive through bad berry prices, labor shortages, late frosts, summer smoke, equipment breakdowns, and the kind of bank meetings that make a farmer feel like a guest on his own land. Ray was not reckless. He was not old-fashioned just to prove a point, he was practical. If the weeds came up, he cultivated. If the aphids built pressure, he treated. If slugs chewed through young strawberry leaves, he bought the product the extension bulletin said would work, and followed the label, because that was what a responsible grower did. A problem appeared. You named it. You applied the correct answer. That was how Ray understood management. Mara understood it too. For most of her life she had watched that system keep food on the table, but after 2 years working with a soil health program and another season helping at a diversified farm down near Chehalis, she came home with a question that irritated her father more than any argument could have. She kept asking, what happened before the outbreak? Not what kills the slug. Not what knocks down the population once the damage starts. What made the field so easy for slugs to own in the first place? That winter, while the strawberry plants sat low and quiet under cold skies, Mara built her case in a yellow notebook. It was not polished. It was not academic, it had coffee rings on the cover, feed store receipts folded into the back, and hand-drawn maps of the lowest beds on the farm. But the argument inside it was simple. A farm is not a warehouse with plants in it, it is a living system with gaps, and every gap invites something to move in. Too much damp grass. Slugs move in. Too much reaction, too late. Damage moves in. Too little attention between rows. Trouble moves in before anyone sees it. Mara did not believe ducks were magic. She did not believe animals could replace every tool a farm needed. But she had watched Indian runner ducks work behind a vegetable farm after harvest, moving through old lettuce beds like a little cleaning crew with bills. They ate slugs. They ate small snails. They worked edges. They hunted under leaves. They kept moving. And unlike a jug on a shelf, they did not wait for somebody to panic before they became useful. The conversation happened at the kitchen table in January. Rain beat against the window. Ray was reading repair estimates for the berry washer. Mara's mother, Denise, was sorting payroll notes. Mara set the yellow notebook beside her father's coffee cup and said, "I want to run ducks through the low strawberry block." Ray did not look up right away. Then he said, "Ducks." Mara said, "Runner ducks. Some Campbell's too. Light birds. Good foragers." Ray looked at her over the top of his glasses. He said, "We sell strawberries, Mara. We are not opening a children's farm." Denise kept her eyes on the receipts, but her mouth twitched. Mara said she was not talking about pets. She was talking about pest pressure. She explained the plan. 70 to 80 ducks, a mobile shelter, portable poultry netting, morning runs through the low block before the fruit got heavy, no loose birds near ripe berries, no birds left in one section long enough to flatten the bed edges, daily rotation, water tubs at the headlands, sample zones marked with flags, slug counts before and after, leaf damage tracked every 3 days. Ray listened long enough to prove he was listening and frowned long enough to prove he did not like it. Then he asked the question Mara knew was coming. "What happens when your ducks eat the berries?" Mara opened the notebook to a page marked with blue tape. "Timing," she said. "They go in before ripe fruit. Early spring. Soft growth. Slug pressure. Then they rotate out. If they touch fruit, we stop." Ray took the page and stared at the map. He said, "And what happens when they dig up the plants?" "They are ducks," Mara said. "Not chickens. They dabble. They don't scratch the bed apart if we keep them moving." He turned another page. "How much?" Mara had practiced that answer. "Ducklings, netting, water gear, feed, brooder lights. Used shelter frame, and repair parts. About $2,450. Ray gave a laugh with no humor in it. $2,400 for birds that quack at mud. Slug damage costs more than that, Mara said. Only when the products do not work. Mara looked at him, only if they keep working forever. That was the line Ray did not answer, because both of them knew what the last few springs had looked like. Wetter, longer, more pressure in the low block, more nights when the field stayed slick, more mornings when they found damage after the damage had already spread. For years they had treated slug outbreaks like weather surprises, but they were not surprises anymore. They were appointments. Ray closed the notebook. He said, "I'll think on it." He thought on it for 13 days. Then he walked into the packing room where Mara was washing harvest knives and said, "If this bird idea goes wrong, we shut it down before it costs us a block." Mara nodded. Ray said, "They stay away from ripe fruit. They stay away from ripe fruit. They do not tear up the beds. They keep moving. And I am not building a luxury duck hotel." Mara looked at him. Ray said, A shelter. Fine. Not a hotel. By the end of February, he had added a hinged ramp, 2 handles, and a roof patch because, as he put it, if we are wasting money, we might as well waste it square. The first people outside the family to hear about the ducks heard about them at the co-op. Mara had gone in for netting clips, galvanized hooks, a new brooder bulb, and the kind of small items that somehow turn into a $100 receipt. The clerk, a man named Pete, picked up the poultry netting and said, "What are you fencing?" Mara said, "A duck lane." Pete blinked. "A what?" 2 growers were standing near the coffee pot. One was talking about fertilizer prices, the other turned his head, like he had just heard free entertainment. Mara said, "We are going to run ducks through the low strawberry block for slug control." Pete looked at the netting. Then at Mara. Then at the 2 growers. He smiled in the careful way people smile when they want a story to repeat later. "Ducks are not a pest program," he said. One grower laughed. "Until the coyotes file their report." The other said, "Or until the berries taste like pond water." Mara did not argue. She had grown up around farmers long enough to know the first laugh is almost never a place where facts can land. A laugh is a closed gate. You do not talk it open. You build something on the other side and let people hear it working. So she bought the clips. She loaded the netting. She drove home. The ducklings arrived in late February, in 2 vented boxes that sounded like tiny angry machinery. They were delicate-looking things at first. Warm fuzz, soft bills. Feet too large for their bodies. Mara set them in a brooder built from old plywood sheets inside the corner of the packing room. She checked the heat. She dipped their bills in water. She changed the bedding. Then she changed it again, because ducks can turn clean bedding into wet trouble faster than almost any creature alive. Ray walked past the brooder that night, stopped, and made a face. "They smell like a problem." Mara said, "They are 2 days old." "Exactly. They started early." But when one of the smallest ducklings kept getting pushed away from the feeder, Ray was the one who cut down an old plastic tray and made a second feeding station. He did not announce it, he did not admit it meant anything. He just set it in the brooder and walked away. By mid-March, the ducklings had become loud, narrow, long-necked adolescents with the confidence of unpaid inspectors. They investigated buckets. They investigated bootlaces. They investigated puddles. They investigated the reflective tape on a tomato stake and decided it was an enemy of the farm. Mara started training them in the gravel yard behind the packing shed. Every morning, she shook the dented blue scoop. The ducks learned the sound almost immediately. Feed meant movement. Movement meant the gate. The gate meant the world. At first, the world defeated them. 12 ducks went left, 20 went right, 1 tried to crawl under the empty berry flat stack. 5 stopped in a puddle and held what sounded like a committee meeting. Ray watched from the shop doorway and said, "Top crew." Mara said, "New hires." By the end of 2 weeks, the flock could follow the scoop across the yard, through a netted corridor, around a row marker, and back to the shelter. Not perfectly, never perfectly, but farming does not run on perfect, it runs on repeatable enough. Here is the principle that made the whole thing matter. A chemical treatment is a tool. Sometimes, it is the right tool. Mara knew that. She was not against science. She was not against modern agriculture. She was not pretending that a duck could read a label, calibrate a sprayer, or replace every form of pest control. But most treatments begin after a threshold is crossed. The pest population rises. The field shows damage. The grower scouts. The grower reacts. By the time the wheels move, the outbreak has already found momentum. A duck works differently. A duck does not need a warning email from the co-op. A duck does not need a spreadsheet to decide that a slug is worth eating. A duck walks because walking is what it does. It pushes its bill into wet grass. It checks the soft edge where plastic mulch meets soil. It noses under leaves. It patrols the little shaded places where slugs hide before dark. It turns appetite into labor. That was Mara's argument. Not that living systems were simple. The opposite. They were harder, they needed water, fencing, timing, protection, observation, and patience. But if placed correctly, a living helper could reduce pressure before pressure became emergency. Ray had spent 40 years asking, what do we apply when the problem gets bad? Mara was asking, what can live here so it does not get that bad? Those two questions grow two different farms. The first day in the strawberry block was a mess. Mara had fenced off the worst acre and a half, a low section near the drainage ditch where slug pressure always arrived first. She had set orange flags every 10th bed. She had marked sample leaves with little loops of soft wire. She had filled 2 water tubs and dragged the mobile shelter to the end of the lane. Then she opened the gate. The ducks exploded forward with the confidence of professionals. For 8 seconds, Mara thought it was working. Then the flock split in 3 directions. One group tried to go back to the packing shed, another discovered a flooded tire rut and refused to leave it. A third marched straight into the wrong lane and trapped itself behind the poultry netting, as if the fence had personally insulted them. Ray stood beside the irrigation reel with his arms folded. He said, I see the management system. Mara had mud on both knees by 9 o'clock. By noon, she had moved the water tubs twice. By 2, she realized the ducks had trampled one bed edge where she had left them too long. By 4, she had counted the same sample area twice and forgotten to write down the second count. By 6, she got the flock back only by walking backward in the rain, shaking the blue scoop like a woman negotiating with a very small army. Ray did not say, I told you so, his eyebrows handled it for him. That night, Mara sat at the kitchen table with her wet socks steaming near the heater and entered the numbers anyway. Ducks released, 76. Time in field, 5 hours and 40 minutes. Rows covered, 11. Slug count before release in marked zones, 214. Slug count after release, 58. Visible new leaf chewing in duck rows, 9%. Visible new leaf chewing in control rows, 22%. Feed consumed that day, 31 pounds. Bed edge damage, 1 avoidable section. She did not show Ray. One day can give you hope. It cannot give you proof. So she went back. For the next 3 weeks, Mara ran the ducks through the low block every morning the field could handle it. She shortened the lanes, she moved water more often. She learned that the ducks worked best if they entered from the ditch side and moved toward the barn. She learned they slowed down near dense grass. She learned they liked the shady edge beside the old raspberry windbreak. She learned that if she crowded them, they made a mess, but if she kept them loose and moving, they hunted. The ducks learned, too. They learned the scoop, they learned the gate, they learned the route, they learned that the strawberry rows held food that did not come from a bag. And Ray learned in the way farmers often learn when they do not want to give an idea the satisfaction of being right. First, he stopped making jokes. Then he started watching. Then he started asking small questions that pretended not to be interest. How much feed are they leaving? Did they work the ditch rows? How many flags did you check? Why are they better in the left lane? Mara answered carefully. She knew better than to sound victorious. On a farm, being right too loudly can make the next conversation harder. By the last week of March, the low block looked different. Not clean. Not perfect, this was still spring, still wet soil, still a strawberry field full of places for pests to hide. But the new leaves were holding. The crowns were cleaner. The damage was not spreading in the duck run rows the way it was spreading, where the ducks had not been. Then the real rain arrived. It started on a Sunday night as a soft mist. By Monday morning, it had settled into the valley. By Tuesday, the headlands were slick. By Wednesday, the drainage ditch had swallowed the grass on its edges. By Thursday, the row covers shone with water. By Friday, every low place in every berry field seemed to be moving. Slugs climbed the bed shoulders. Slugs gathered under plastic edges. Slugs appeared inside berry cups before the berries had even sized up. Growers who had waited too long started making calls. One spray crew said the earliest opening was 4 days out, another said they could come sooner if the field was dry enough to drive, which was a cruel condition under that sky. At the co-op, Pete's slug bait shelf went empty before noon. He called 2 suppliers. Then a third. Then he taped the sign above the shelf, "Out until next shipment." That afternoon, Mara walked the low block in a rain jacket with mud climbing up her calves. She found slugs. Of course she found slugs. There were too many to pretend the system had erased them. But the duck run sections were different. The pressure was lower, the new chewing was lighter. The worst edges had not exploded into the kind of damage she had expected. At 5:40 the next morning, Ray came into the kitchen. Mara was standing over her notebook, looking at radar on her phone. Ray said, "You taking them out?" Mara said, "It's pretty wet." Ray looked through the dark window. Then he looked back at her. "They are ducks." It was the first time he said it like a strength instead of a punchline. They opened the gate at 6:18 a.m. The rain was steady but not hard, the field was gray, the headlands were soft, the ducks loved everything about it. They moved down the lanes with their bodies low and their bills busy, muttering as they searched the wet seams of the beds. Mara walked one side. Ray walked the other. For a while, he said nothing, then he bent down, picked a slug from the underside of a leaf, and tossed it toward the flock. A tan duck snatched it before it reached the mud. Ray stared at the bird. Very quietly, he said, "Well, look at that." That week became the real test. Not the charming test. Not the novelty test, not the kind of test people smile at because ducks are involved. The real one. When the rain came. When the shelf was empty. When the spray crew could not get there. When young strawberry growth was soft, exposed, and worth protecting. Would the system hold? By Sunday night, Mara had numbers she trusted enough to show her father. The untreated upper section showed visible chewing on 27% of sampled new leaves. The low block sections worked by ducks for 3 weeks showed 6%. Slug counts in the control rows had jumped, duck run rows still had pressure, but not crisis pressure. The year before, during a wet stretch half that long, the Ellis farm had made 2 emergency treatment passes and still lost enough early growth to delay the first picking. This year, in the worst week, the low block needed no emergency slug bait. No emergency spray crew. No rush order. No tractor passed through ground too wet to forgive it. Just 76 ducks, 2 people, a blue feed scoop, portable netting, and a system that had been built before the field started screaming. Mara went back to the co-op the next week for more netting. Pete saw her coming and grinned. "How is the duck department?" The joke was still there, but the edge had changed. Mara set the notebook on the counter. She said, "Actually, I brought the counts. 4 growers were near the coffee pot. 2 had treated twice. One had lost more early growth than he wanted to say out loud. The fourth had already heard that Ray Ellis had birds in his berry rows and had stopped mocking them in public. Mara opened the yellow notebook. She showed the before and after slug counts. She showed the damaged leaf percentages. She showed the feed costs. She showed the setup cost. She showed the labor hours, including the first disastrous day. She showed the photos of the duck lanes. She even showed the egg count because the ducks had started laying, and while the eggs did not pay for the whole system, they did make the math less annoying. One grower said, "That is one block." Mara said, "Yes." He said, "1 wet month." "Yes." Then she pointed at the map. "But it is the block that usually gets hit first. During the worst slug week we have had in years, it had the least damage on our farm." The room got quiet. Pete leaned over the notebook longer than a man leans over something he plans to dismiss. Then he said, "How many ducks per acre?" Mara shook her head. "I would not start there." The growers looked at her. "I would start with a test laying," she said. "Pressure first, layout first, timing first, then figure out the flock." That was when the conversation changed. Before that, people were asking whether ducks were ridiculous. After that, they were asking how the system worked. There is a whole farm hidden inside the difference between those two questions. By May, the county extension office had called. A small farms coordinator named Elena Brooks had heard the story from two growers, one neighbor, and Pete, who was now describing the duck trial as interesting, in the voice of a man editing his own past. Elena asked if Mara would speak at the monthly small farms night. Mara said, "I can do 10 minutes. Elena said, "Can you bring pictures?" Mara said, "I can bring data." Elena laughed, "Bring both." The meeting was held in a county building with folding chairs, beige walls, bad coffee, and a projector that refused to recognize Mara's laptop for almost 8 minutes. 41 people came. Some grew berries. Some ran vegetable farms. Some had orchards. Some came because they wanted another tool. Some came because they wanted to see whether Ray Ellis's daughter had actually turned a strawberry field into a duck root. Mara stood at the front in work pants, rubber boots, and a rain jacket with dried mud on one sleeve. She did not sell the ducks like a miracle. That mattered. She told the room exactly what could go wrong. Ducks needed water. Ducks needed protection. Ducks needed shelter. Ducks needed daily movement. Ducks could damage bed edges if crowded. They could muddy a lane if left too long. They could become coyote food if a person treated fencing like a decoration. They were not equipment, they were not products. They were animals. And animals, unlike products, do not care about your calendar. The room laughed because every farmer there knew what it meant to have a plan corrected by a living thing. Then Mara showed the numbers. The setup cost, the feed cost, the lamb hours, the leaf damage, the slug counts, the photos from before the rain and after it. She showed where the system failed on the first day. She showed where it improved. She showed the difference between using ducks as a gimmick and using them as part of a rotation. Then she said the line people remembered. "I don't think the lesson is that every farm needs ducks. I think the lesson is that we keep buying dead answers for living problems." The room got still. Mara looked down at the notebook. Sometimes the answer has to wake up hungry. Ray stood in the back, beside the coffee urn. He had said he was only coming to help with the projector. But he stayed for the whole talk. When questions started, he did not answer for her. A vegetable grower asked about lettuce beds. An orchard owner asked whether ducks helped around windfall fruit. A berry grower asked about netting. Someone asked about raccoons. Someone asked whether the ducks ever escaped. Mara said, "Yes." The whole room laughed. Pete raised his hand and asked whether the co-op should stock poultry netting near the slug bait. that got the biggest laugh of the night. By the end of the meeting, 7 farms had asked to visit the Ellis place. 3 wanted to try small flock rotations the next spring. 1 vegetable grower wanted to start after the fall greens. An orchard owner wanted to test ducks in a fenced low corner that stayed wet too long every April. Elena called the project duck-assisted slug management. Ray called it Mara's waddling payroll. But he said it with pride. The next spring, the idea was no longer a family oddity. It was still not a revolution. Real farm change rarely looks like a revolution while it is happening. It looks like 5 cautious people trying small versions of something that embarrassed them a year earlier. There were ducks on 4 farms in the county, 28 on a vegetable place near Conway, 42 in a mixed berry operation outside Burlington. A small flock rotating through orchard alleys after rain. And at the Ellis farm, Mara expanded to 108 ducks and divided the low fields into cleaner lanes. The shelter rolled better. The netting sagged less. The water stations were set on old pallet platforms so they did not turn every stop into a mud bowl. Ray built a lighter gate latch because, as he said, apparently, the staff requires efficient access. He still claimed he did not like the ducks, but he knew which drake had a crooked toe. He knew which hen always came in last. He knew that a pale runner named Biscuit would refuse the left ramp unless the blue scoop was shaken twice. A man can say many things. His routines tell the truth. That second spring was not as wet as the first, but it was wet enough. The duck-managed beds showed lower slug counts again. The low block came into May cleaner. The first picking started on schedule. More importantly, Mara noticed something she had not written into the original plan. The field was being watched better. Because ducks had to be moved, somebody had to walk the rows. Every morning. Not from the tractor seat. Not from the edge. On foot, slowly. Mara saw small drainage failures before they became big ones. She saw weak plants earlier. She saw vole tunnels near the ditch. She saw weed patches before they seeded. She found a cracked irrigation fitting before it cost a day. A spray rig covers ground fast. Ducks make you pay attention slowly. And sometimes slow attention is the thing a farm has been missing most. 2 years after the rain that emptied the co-op shelf, Mara was invited to speak at a regional sustainable farming workshop in Bellingham. She drove there in Ray's old pickup with a plastic tote full of photos, maps, and muddy boots she had forgotten to clean. There were 130 people in the room. Mara told the story plainly. She talked about the first laugh. She talked about the first bad day. She talked about the week when the shelves were empty, the rain would not stop. And her father finally said, "They are ducks," like the word had changed meaning. People laughed at that. Then she showed the numbers. 76 ducks in the first trial. $2,450 to set it up. 1.5 acres in the first lane. Leaf chewing 6% where the birds have been working, 27% where they had not. No emergency treatment in the low block during the worst rain week. Then the long croof. Across 2 springs, the duck-managed sections had not eliminated slugs. They had done something more useful. They had kept the problem smaller, before the farm had to spend panic money on it. After the talk, a researcher from the university asked if Mara would help design a small field study. A grower from Oregon asked for her lane map. A farm manager from California said, "I came here ready for duck jokes, I'm leaving with measurements." Mara drove home as the evening light spread across the flat fields. When she got back, Ray was outside the packing shed, rinsing water tubs. He asked, "How did it go?" Mara said, "Fine." They listen. Some. Ray nodded. That's how it starts. Then he went back to rinsing tubs. That was all, that was enough. Let me tell you one last thing about the Ellis farm, the ducks still go out in spring. Not every day, not in every field, not when ripe berries are low and sweet. Not as a show for visitors. They go where they are useful, they work the wet lanes. They move through the low block before fruit comes heavy. They follow the blue scoop back to the shelter in the afternoon, the tractor is still there. The sprayer is still there. The co-op still sells products, and the Ellises still buy some of them when they need them. Nobody threw modern farming away and replaced it with a postcard. That is not the story. The story is more useful than that. A farm that had been reacting to the same spring problem built one layer of prevention before the crisis. A father who trusted products learned to trust a process. A daughter who came home with a notebook full of ideas learned that being right is not enough. You still have to build the lane. Fill the water. Move the fence. Count the damage, protect the birds. And bring the whole muddy crew home before dark. A community that laughed at ducks in a strawberry field started looking around. And asking what other helpers had been standing outside the plan. Barn owls over field edges. Sheep under solar rows. Chickens after harvest. Beetle banks near vegetables. Hedgerows thick enough to hold the insects that eat the insects you hate. Not every helper belongs in every system, but every system has relationships it has forgotten how to use. That was the truth Mara kept returning to. The farm was never just strawberries and slugs. It was strawberries, slugs, soil, rain, grass, plastic mulch, people, birds, timing, hunger, attention, and habit. The ducks did not solve everything, they did something smaller and stronger. They reminded everyone that agriculture is not only the work of fighting nature. Sometimes it is the work of hiring the right part of nature and giving it a clear job. On wet spring mornings now, when the ditch water rises and the strawberry leaves shine under a low gray sky, Mara opens the gate behind the packing shed. The ducks gather before she even shakes the scoop. They know the route. They know the lanes. They know, in their duck way, that the field is full of work. Ray usually pretends to be fixing something near the shed, but he watches. He watches 70-some bills lower into the wet green seams. He watches the rows that used to worry him come into spring cleaner than they used to. And sometimes, when he thinks Mara cannot hear him, he talks to them. Get moving, Biscuit. That is what happens when a farm remembers that not every answer comes in a jug. That is what happens when a young woman with a yellow notebook, a drowned strawberry field, and a flock of loud ducks asks the question nobody at the co-op thought was serious. What if the pest is not only the problem? What if the outbreak is a message? What if the field is telling you something is missing? Not more panic, not stronger reaction, not another late pass through mud that should never have carried a tractor. What if, sometimes, the answer has webbed feet? They laughed when Mara Ellis released the ducks into the strawberry rows. Then the rain came. The slugs came with it. The co-op shelves went empty. The spray crews ran behind schedule. And in the lowest block of the Ellis farm, 76 ducks lowered their heads and went to work. By the end of the week, the plants were still standing. The new leaves were still green. And Ray Ellis was no longer laughing, he was building a better gate.